We're live to you from this B20 Summit with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit, happening for the first time indeed. And this summit presents a practical opportunity for the continent to move from intent to delivery by aligning global finance with Africa's development and energy transition priorities. Now, to find out more, we're joined now by Daniel Minele, who's the chairperson of the Nedbank group here on 702. Mr. Minele, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to the listeners of 702. Welcome to the B20 Summit.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for so long. It's quite a big deal for us as South Africa. It's a big deal for our government, for the business sector. You have called Africa's G20 presidency a defining moment. What makes this presidency more than just symbolic? What does it change in real time?
I think it gave South Africa and Africa an opportunity to provide a global leadership. So this presidency of the G20 was in a very deliberate way used to amplify the African voice and manage to reposition Africa from being just a price taker, or an implementer of international standards that are determined elsewhere, but to start being a co-creator, to start being a participant in decision-making when it comes to how we deal with global economic governance, how we reform the global financial systems and its institutions, and quite critically in terms of the work that I was involved with as part of the G20 during the year, how we deal with climate finance, and all of that being dealt with in a manner that takes account of African realities.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because in your previous role you have dealt with climate finance.
Indeed, yeah.
So you know that well. How important is it for economies to pursue energy security, economic competitiveness and environmental responsibility together, and not just in isolation? Because even the theme this year is inclusive growth. It's collaboration, cooperation. How important is that? Because that positions us well in that space.
Indeed, we have been advocating what we call a whole economy approach, which basically means that we need to look at this in a much more holistic and integrated manner. It's a lot more than just about reducing emissions or decarbonizing. This is an opportunity to almost design and conceive a new growth and development model. And it is critical in that respect that if you don't have reliable energy, if you don't have modern infrastructure, you will not be in a position to propel growth. So it's very central to Africa's growth strategy. And if you adopt that type of approach, you then start taking into account country-specific circumstances. You start looking at other systemic issues that need to be addressed as part of this, be it around unemployment, be it around inequality or poverty alleviation that we deal with. So this is critically important because these are catalysts and enablers to growth and development and inclusion.
Yeah, you chair the B20 Energy Mix and Just Transition Task Force. What sort of recommendations are you presenting to the G20 government leaders? What are the key things that you've looked at?
In terms of what this particular task force that dealt with energy mix and just transition is putting forward, very clear, targeted, pragmatic recommendations which have to be implementable and investable. And we came up with three recommendations. The first one is around the need to mobilize transition finance at scale, at affordable prices, on the right terms, because what we've seen is that in recent years there's been a massive increase in sort of climate finance, but it has not been flowing to where it's needed most and where it'll have the greatest impact. So that, if you wish, is the ticket to the game. We get to get finance at scale and affordable. The second recommendation that we put through is one that has to do with industrialization. What we are saying is, in terms of what I just said now around the whole economy approach, is that this, as we retool our economies, as we transition them to be low carbon and more climate resilience, there is an opportunity also to industrialize. As we drive down the value chains that are associated with fossil fuels, we need to ramp up those that are associated with renewable and sustainable energy. So, for example, let me give you an example there. This talks to issues such as, if you consider that about 30% of the so-called critical minerals that are necessary to fuel the transition are sitting in the African continent. So at this point in time, we had struck them, but we don't beneficiate them, we don't create value. So it's important in that process to skill our people and create new industries that will help produce growth and in a just and inclusive way. And the third one is also very critical. It talks to infrastructure, to investing in infrastructure, grid transmission lines, battery storage systems, and all that. And you can see how they're all interconnected. So those are the key recommendations that we're putting forward, underpinned by specific policy actions that we are transmitting to the G20 leaders in terms of how concrete actions could be taken to implement these, alongside with, which is, I think, is the first time it's been done, alongside with key performance indicators that will allow us to evaluate and monitor whether we are getting the desired outcomes as we go along. So those are the key sort of three recommendations that we're putting forward.
I'm glad to hear the monitoring part, because often when these recommendations are made, or even declarations are made, there's no system that sort of tracks whether what has been recommended actually is being implemented.
And exactly. I mean, one of the key issues for us was to put a spotlight on making sure that, because for years we've been talking about this, rather than widening the conversation, the key issue for us here is to how do we get to implementation and delivery, and obviously you need to monitor to make sure that you see whether you're on the right track, and more importantly, if you are not, how quickly you course correct.
Yes. Are you getting the buy-in though from member countries, and where do you think is the greatest resistance? Because I know in the past what also used to frustrate you in your private role in climate finances, there are some countries that just are not making commitments, and we are where we are now because of them. But sometimes even when it comes to funding, they just want to give conditional grants. They are not really interested to make some effective financial investment. Is that something you've picked up, or are you seeing that there's some buy-in, or is there still resistance?
Look, in terms of the specific work of this task force, we have been working very closely with what you could almost call our counterpart in the G20 process, which is the Energy Transition Working Group, and have been liaising with them. So I'm glad to report that there is a very strong sense of alignment between the recommendations and what they've been working on. But the key issue, as I say, is how do we move from talking to implementing and to executing? You're right. Lots of commitments have been made in terms of finance. We've had the 100 billion pledge that at the Baku conference got tripled to $300 billion that needs to be coming through every year until 2030. But we need to see that becoming reality, and implementation is going to be the key issue. That's how do we move to make sure that we just don't keep talking, particularly because the underlying situation that we're addressing is very urgent, given that last year was the hottest year on record and so forth. So the issues around climate change and its implications, particularly for the African continent, is not something that we've got a luxury of time on. We really need to implement urgently. Yeah,
and of course, transition sounds quite enormous. We have to make it just and not just green. Do you think the recommendations that we have seen now that you spoke about align with South Africa's own vision to expand green industries, especially when it comes to cushioning workers and communities affected by this shift from coal?
Yes, what we made sure is to be careful to not be too prescriptive. There wouldn't be any one size that fits all. So you have to be country specific. You not to take into account what the starting points of countries are, what their resources are, what their capabilities are. So this is going to be calibrated to sort of country needs. That's why we have been advocating for the institutionalization of what we call country platforms, which essentially speaks to bringing together policy, capital and capacity to do the implementation, alongside with advocating obviously for stable macroeconomic frameworks, for policy certainty, for predictability and so forth, because that is what then crowd in the finance. Once you've got that levels of confidence, capital flows.
Yeah. So we, of course, have the world leaders coming through this week, and I've been asking everybody I'm talking to around the G20 as we look forward to it. What message do you think you want to take to the table, to the G20 leaders?
Look, the message that we would want to take through is one that says that the global energy transition must deliver universal access, it must bring with it economic opportunity, and it must increase climate resilience, and it needs to be implemented in such a way that's the justice components that we talk about, that the opportunities, the challenges, the risks are shared equitably and according to those who are best able to bear a certain of the risks. So and the key message is implementing, executing.
Yeah. Are there lessons that you think we can take, especially what maybe we're learning from other countries as well, other G20 members, from the conversations you've had ahead of this week? What are the lessons for us that we can pick up as South Africa, not just as government, but as business as well?
Look, I think the overarching lesson, which is not necessarily new, it just got amplified during the year, is that we are facing global challenges that we can only tackle together. The level of cooperation, collaboration, and working out what the various role players need to take care of, whether it's governments, whether it's DFIs, whether it's the business sector, and to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind. We collaborate, public-private partnerships are important, and it's key to understand that we need to de-risk certain elements of the projects to make sure that we can leverage public sector funding to crowd in much bigger pools that sit in the private of a coordination.
For speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
And all the best with the summit today. Daniel Menele is the chair of the Nedbank Group, chatting to us here at the B20 Summit at the Sandton Convention Center. Remember, at 10 o'clock, we're going to speak to Kaskovadia as well as we focus on what's happening here. He is the B20 Sherpa, and he acts as the chief negotiator and coordinator responsible for developing and finalizing the B20's policy recommendations and presenting them to the G20 leadership. So we've looked at these 3 recommendations that Mr. Minele speaks about that are going to be presented to the G20 government leaders, but there are more recommendations that broadly as the business sector in South Africa they're going to be presenting to G20. So that's what we'll also look at 10 o'clock. Time now for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. It's 9:30.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
It's 9:33. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Stephen Groters is here. How are you doing, Stephen?
I'm good, thank you, Clement.
Yeah,
it's nice to see you. Sorry to interrupt your show. I know it might sound a little money. I found it quite difficult to stay away, actually, because so much of my world is here.
Absolutely. Tell me about what your impressions have been so far of B20. I mean, this is important for the conversations that are taking place and the recommendations that will be made to the G20 summit. You've spoken to a lot of business leaders. What do you think this opportunity provides us?
I think it does several things. Firstly, you get a lot of different people from different places with diverse backgrounds, all looking at the same things. And you might have someone from South Africa who's been looking at a thing for a certain way. They find themselves in a coffee queue with someone from Brazil, a country with, probably the second highest inequality in the world. And they have a conversation, and then the guy in Brazil says, do you know what? I tried what you did, but now I do this and it works better. So it's that kind of face-to-face thing that you don't get anywhere else, and why working from home is such a bad idea.
Yeah.
You also get a chance to focus. So if you're someone running a South African bank and you're preparing for the B20, you immediately need to think, what are the things we need to do? How to explain to my counterpart from another G20 country what my problem is? And so you really do look at the problem. I'm always a big fan of people in a room together, because I think things come out of that. Sometimes difficult things, but often really good things, because it brings people together. And that for business people is really important right now.
Yeah, one of the things I appreciated is that there has been the presence of the Americans' businesses.
Yeah, big time.
Big time. So even though the US president and the Trump administration have shown disdain towards the G20, there are some important US businesses that have participated in the B20.
So there are a couple of things going on here. I mean, on the one level, they've got to look past Trump. What happens in 4 years? They might also be looking, will this trade policy continue? They're also thinking, we have clients, black South African clients, black people on the African continent. Our president has called Africa that word. He's been very dismissive. But we need to say to our clients, we're actually different to him. We're not him. We need to sort of say, we're open for business, we want to trade, we want your business, but more importantly, we want to work with you. We're not like that. And this is a heaven-sent opportunity for them to do it. Because if you want to draw a line, politically, if you want to sort of distinguish yourself, make yourself distinct from something else for American business, this is the moment. You come to the B20, make a splash, make sure everyone knows about you, make sure Clement and that guy Stephen are talking about it, and suddenly, off you go.
Exactly. Stephen Grottes, looking forward to the Money Show tonight at 6 p.m. Thank you for chatting to us.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to your WhatsApp voice notes now on 072 702 1702.
Morning, 702. This is Kamo here from Johannesburg. In terms of Brown Mogotsi's testimony, I will say Brown Mogotsi is treating the commission, like all other commissions in South Africa, like a joke, and rightfully so. I'm fully in support that he treats it like a joke, goes there and tell us gossip and stories that him and his friends talk about when they're having whiskey. All these things need to be in court. These commissions are useless. They are toothless. They don't have authority. Nobody's going to jail. Even if these commissions and the Madlanga Inquiry, all of this, even if they say tomorrow everybody's guilty, nobody's going to jail. It still needs to go to court. So, Brian Mogotsi must just keep on telling us fairy tales and whatever. It's fine. He must disrespect this useless process.
How's it, Clement? I find it really sad that, there is some truth in Brown Mogotsi's, statements and so forth. But yes, as usual, there's no evidence to back it up. So these guys are laughing and smiling all the way to the bank and, after having pillaged this country as usual. Look at Malusi Gigabyte, right? Literally, the dude has been in court so many times on various charges. But, you see him yesterday laughing and smiling with his co-conspirators, because these guys know the paperwork aren't on them and they'll just continue to... They had fun. Let's just say they had fun looting this country.
Morning, Clement. Brown Mogotsi is a chancer, is a liar. When questioned by the advocate regarding those cell phone printouts, not screenshots, printout, you couldn't answer him. And then to name Mr. John Wick, that's clutching at straws. He's throwing people under the bus. Even that so-called hit on him, that was staged. He was never hit. The car he was driving with, and to go to Vosloorus, and then how he got away, and they would have chased after him. And those guys, those hitmen, they don't go there with 9 mils, Woody. They take AK-47 to take you out. So I think Brown is a chancer. He is lying to save his own skin. This whole testimony was just throwing people under the bus, and he's an informer, naming the CIA. Come on, Clement. That's so untrue. That's so far-fetched. I don't believe a word that man said.
Yeah, listen, wild. That's why I said the only word I can find to describe what we witnessed yesterday is wild. Yeah, let me know of your thoughts of not just Brown Mogotsi's testimony yesterday, but also of Mary de Haas, who testified in Parliament yesterday as well. There were also questions around whether or not she's a professor or not. She's an honorary professor, in my understanding, right? Or do you understand it differently from what I picked up? But also, guys, can we be consistent? Because some people now are trying to suggest, did she lie about her qualifications? I don't know if she's come out to say, I'm a professor, I'm a doctor. She's an honorary professor. How many of us, don't you guys call Professor Tulima Donsela a professor? Is she not an adjunct professor at Stellenbosch University? So how different is that? The point I'm trying to make is there are many people that we even bring on our shows. There are many people that we talk to that we call Dr. Mamang, Honorable Mamang, even there in Parliament. They'll say Professor whoever, Doctor whoever, even when the matters they're dealing with now there have got nothing to do with the work they do at universities. So all I'm saying is let's also be just consistent. Just because you don't like certain people, and I hold no brief for Mary de Haas. In fact, I think she was very emotional yesterday, but I also think that's the personality that she has. They told her so many times, just calm down, nobody's fighting with you, right? And the chair, tried his best to afford her the level of respect that any senior citizen deserves. But she was getting too emotional, and she was making claims about people that she can't really substantiate. When she was asked about, for instance, Nkantlam Konazi and whether he's credible, and he said, I don't think he's credible. Okay, but on what basis are you saying that? On what basis are you saying, okay, even Dumisani Kumalo is not credible? You need to be able to back that up. And she's not able to do that because she's too emotional. She's too emotionally invested here, even when she doesn't really have a solid reference point. But that's what she did yesterday in Parliament. So let's go to some more of your WhatsApps, and I'll come to your calls as well on 011-883-0702.
Clement, good morning. For me, there's a room to believe what Brown Mogotsi is telling us. South Africa is so bad to a point that it is difficult to separate chaff from the wheat. Part of me says he is telling us the truth until someone else comes in and dispute what he's telling us. Perhaps Kat Matlala must be brought in to the Commission of Inquiry to dispute what Brown Mogotsi is telling us, Clement. Anonymous.
Clement, Clement, I was listening to Brown Mogotsi yesterday. Aye. Guys, no man, that guy is a pure liar. He can lie with his straight face. He's a pure liar. You're right, Clement. That guy is a chance taker, information peddler. Huh? Yeah. And you come on national TV and you say you are an agent. It doesn't work like that. No. That guy, no, it's not make sure. I don't take anything from his mouth. That guy's lying, straight lying. He come and say, Kat Madlala went to KZN and to talk to Mukwanazi to solve this Gauteng. That contract is in Gauteng, not in KZN. That guy's not serious, yo. Now, as for Mary de Haas, now, she must just go and rest. She's not helping at all. Mwagwe and Joburg, have a great one.
Morning, Clems. Morning, 702 listeners. Clems, Besides Brown Mogotsi's over the price tag talks and lies and wishful thinking and trips, I think there's a longer game he is playing. If you can see that incident he staged in Vosloorus, and now he comes to the commission, he refused to be on camera, blew his own cover. I think the longer game there is for him to get to witness protection, and then that will cover him when it comes to the court case, because now he said that he was not friends with Kat, he only infiltrated, blah blah blah, so it's all right, but it's a longer game. Let's look at it in a longer game. His strategy is to get into witness protection and have the state fund the rest of his lifestyle forever. Muzi, Israel.
Thank you so much, Muzi. We'll probably hear by the end of this week whether the Ad Hoc Committee is going to be traveling to Pretoria to hear the testimony of the testimony of Kat Matlala. I think they've been trying to make arrangements with the Correctional Services Department. So, yeah, we wait to see if that's going to be the case. I hope it is going to be the case. And trust me, as soon as they confirm that, we're going to get ready to go broadcast live from prison, from the Correctional Services facilities, to bring to you live the testimony of Kat Matlala, because that is also going to be crucial. Is he going to come and lie? Is he going to come and make other claims? I mean, who knows? Everybody's claiming to be an informant now. Even that Kelvin Rafadi guy has already indicated that his cover has been blown. Who's next? Huh? I mean, at this rate, even Senzo Mkhuni himself will tell us he's a police informant. Huh? Even though he's a minister. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kat Matlala also comes and says, well, I've also been being involved in these, criminal elements because of 1, 2, 3, and because I was working with the police to advance whatever. Mike, you are calling us from El Dorado Park. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
The Kat Matlala revelations and everything that has transpired so far fills me with such deep disquiet that grows every day as I listen to the commission. And as I listen to the Parliamentary Commission and the Madlanga Commission, the disquiet grows deeper. I may be wrong, but I think any other society would have taken to the streets by now. Because even if a fraction of these lurid allegations that are being tossed around, even if it's a fraction that were true, we are speaking about the police force, a bedrock of civil society. What is going to happen to it? And included in that is the Zondo Commission has wrapped up after R1 billion being spent. And to the layman, and I am a layman, nothing has happened and nothing is going to happen, because the ANC will slow march it into oblivion. And what are the prospects? What are the prospects of the parliamentary investigation and the Madlanga Commission reaping any tangible rewards? But these are, then I'm not exaggerating, and the last point, Clement, this is a bugbear I've had for many years. I'm just going to use Dr. Danny Jordan. The awarding of an honorary doctorate is done all over the world by any university. But when you get an honorary doctorate, and this is a problem I have with you guys as interviewers, because I am almost certain that you must know. If you, Clement, were awarded an honorary doctorate by WITS, the only place where you can use that appellation doctor is at WITS. You don't go around saying, if I were to interview on the radio, I don't address you as Dr. Clement or any of those. And especially in soccer, doctorates were handed out by the basketball. And, when I hear these guys being interviewed on TV, when I hear them being interviewed on the radio, you interviewers go out of your way to say doctor. Because
well, it's not just the host, Mike.
But it is wrong. It is
yes, I
wrong.
know. And that's the point I was making earlier, that there's no consistency here. I'm saying there's no consistency. Even the honorable members of parliament, like, they choose who they're going to address as doctor or professor, even when it is honorary, and who they're not going to address as such. You as listeners as well. I mean, how many times when I'm hosting Rebecca Malope, you call in? In fact, one listener once corrected me when I hosted Rebecca Malope. He said, no, it's Clement, it's Dr. Rebecca Malope. It happens a lot when I host people even on the Hanging Out feature who have received honorary doctorates. No, Clement, that is Dr. whoever. It happens. So I'm saying it's just the lack of consistency across the board in society. And I hope we're going to get to a point where there's a more universal understanding of how we're supposed to interact with these things. Tsepo, you're calling us from Pretoria. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement. Look,
sure.
This is quite interesting. But look, there's a Dr. Ivan Khoza, there's a Dr.
Yes.
Kaiser Mutau. That's how we address them. And even though we know that there's an honorary. So, but
just because we don't like people, I bet you the callers who are calling in and saying, but why is it Mary Ivina? Why are we addressing her like that? I bet you they address Ivan Khoza as Dr. Ivan Khoza. The difference here is that they don't like Mary the Haas. They've taken a side.
Look, Clement, it has always been my view, and that's what I was telling your producer now, to say that, the danger about South Africans, we take a particular view, we take sides already. Anyone who's going to come with a contrary view of what has already been testified against I'll make an example, General Sibia, the minister and so forth, who come with a difference, a difference view that is not in line with the general public is saying. Those people, I can tell you, Clement, they're going to be attacked. They will be seen as people that are lying, that's misleading the commission. And I've always said that let's be neutral. Let's allow the process to unfold. This must come to an end. And once we've done that, then we can make a new judgment, an assessment to say whether the testimony of other individuals that have been coming before the commission, even the parliamentary, is credible or not. But people are going to be criticized and be attacked on the basis that they are being perceived or seen to be attacking your General Mkhwanazi's testimony and the rest. And that is dangerous, Clement. Simply because Mary Haas is not a doctor and is an honorary doctor, and as a result of that, whatever that is going to be presented before the parliament is perceived to be misleading simply because now he's lying. Thank you, Clement.
Thank you. Tsapo, I couldn't have said it better. I've tried to say that for so long. And I'm not going to give up. I think you and I must at least continue to try and, Maya Angelou says, when you learn, you teach. And I think that's something important that you have learned, Tsepo. And I think you must continue to teach other people about just being able to get the nuances. We live in a country where some people have no capacity whatsoever to even listen to other people. They don't. That's why the minute you want to, at some point, whoever interviewed Mary de Haas was being seen as, you are part of the cartel. It's ridiculous. What country do you think this is? Where you're not going to speak to other people because you disagree with them? So we mustn't hear other views because your view must be the one that goes. So it's weird, and it's so sad that as a society, we're getting to that point where anybody else who has a different view or who questions something is seen as problematic, seen as corrupt. So I hope, Tsepo, what you've said will go to the hearts and ears of people that have struggled with that. Thanks for your contribution. 6 minutes before 10.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
All right, 4 minutes now before 10 o'clock. Let's go back to your WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement. Great show as always. A stark contrast that I'm seeing between phase 1 and phase 2 of the commissions and the Ad Hoc Committee is that the witnesses that came in first round that actually made the initial claims, they came with files, they came with evidence, they came with real tangible things that prove their story. This new batch, Brown Mogotsi and Professor Haas, they don't have that. So I'm asking myself, okay, who's telling the truth here? I'd like to believe the one that's coming with the evidence. My daughter here, Germiston.
Morning, Clement. Clement, I think it is incumbent upon any individual that when you are being misdescribed, being called a professor when you are not a professor or a doctor when you are not a doctor, you have an obligation to correct that. So if you don't correct it and just play along, then you are the one that is being dishonest, and people will carry on calling you what you are in fact not. Bupilo here from Benoni.
Hi, morning, Clement. That Brian Mogotsi. No. You can see that whatever's talking, whatever is, when he's answering the question, he answered to defend. So even the way he answered, you can hear that that man is just lying. Whatever he's saying is lying. Steven, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to continue with your calls and WhatsApps after the news at 10 o'clock. I'm mindful, of course, of the fact that we were unable to take as many of the calls and voice notes as possible because we are live at the Sandton Convention Center for the B20 Summit. So that included some of the interviews that we did here on the open line. So I've stolen some of your time and I want to pay it back. So keep calling on 011-883-0702, WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. I will continue with those after the news.